Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here. Oh, I got a little music playing here. Hang on one second. Keith Engle here for Jack and Keith Weekend Playbook. I welcome in my co-host, boxing guru, and I'll go back to sports guru a bit. I'm talking about boxing guru, boxing Hall of Fame writer. Jesus, I got my introduction mixed up. And all-around sports guru, Jack Hirsch. Good morning, Jack. How are you on this wonderful Monday?
Hey, good morning, Keith. I'm really good. The NFL season continues, but for me personally, it ended yesterday with the Jets. The torture ended. Now I move on to baseball. I mean, not that I'm not paying attention to the Knicks, but I'm actually a Nets fan. The season never began for the Nets as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
so, I kind of move on indirectly to baseball, but football is very much on my mind, and I can't wait to watch these upcoming playoff games.
Good morning, Brian is with us. Good morning, Brian, and we are live on the McGrath Podcasting Network. We have got finally landed on a name I can say. Thank you, Brian, so much for that, and you saw the promo for all the shows beforehand, and welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and we're going to talk a lot of NFL today. We've got the playoff picture is in place. We had a great finish to the season last night for two teams that have been mediocre probably at best this year. We got Black Monday, a lot to talk about. Let's start with last night's game, Jack. I mean, I wasn't expecting a great game last night, but it turned out to be a pretty good one. I kind of was fighting some sleep because I hadn't slept much. I haven't felt well, but
you watch every game, Keith. That's what happens. It wears you down. I don't understand why you didn't get into coaching, because you keep those hours that these coaches keep.
They weren't paying.
If you were a coach, you'd sleep in the office. Like Tom Coughlin used to tell a story. One player couldn't figure out how come Tom Coughlin was always the first one in practice. So this player showed up at 5 a.m, and Coughlin came out to greet him. And the player was exasperated. Later, he found out that Coughlin slept in the office. That's you, Keith.
A lot of guys do that. I have. If you count my recliner as my office, I do sleep in the office a lot.
Confession: when I'm really tired, dozing off, I do not stay up normally for a late regular season game unless it's a massively big game, and that's what the Steelers and Ravens were yesterday. For all the marbles who'd win the division. And I fought my fatigue. I stood up. But you want to know something? In the fourth quarter, any fatigue I had was gone. I couldn't be more awake. What a game. It wasn't just a great game. It was a legendary game. The ebbs, the flows. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, last 2 times he had the ball, he led the Steelers to touchdowns. Lamar Jackson comes back. And I'm going to tell you, late in the game, too, Zay Flowers early in the game got behind the Steelers secondary for touchdown. And I'm telling myself, when the Ravens are running plays at the end, Steelers have the lead, okay? They have a 3-point lead. I'm saying whatever you do, okay, whatever you do, do not let Zay Flowers get behind you in the secondary.
Yeah.
What happens? The Ravens fake a fancy run, and Zay Flowers gets behind him, and Lamar Jackson hits him with a pass, and it looked like they were going to win the game. But Aaron Rodgers brings them back with 55 seconds left. They go up 26-24. Boswell misses the extra point. He hasn't missed an extra point for over 2 years. He misses it now. You know what I'm thinking. Ravens have 55 seconds, 3 timeouts. They're going to get in field goal position, and they're going to win on a field goal at the end. They get an excellent kick return up to about the 45. They get in field goal range, and Tyler Loop, who the rookie kicker, 6th-round draft choice, has had a great season. He hasn't missed from within 50 yards all season long. Hooks it wide right. Man, oh man, what a game. Steelers advance. I sound a little like Dick Vitale, I think.
You sound
I don't know what, that not intentionally, of course.
No, it's unfortunate. It's interesting. Your whole season comes down to a rookie kicker. This is kind of what the NFL is today. I thought that the Ravens had a little bit of time to try to get that ball closer to than a 44-yard field goal, but you probably feel you don't need to because the kid's been automatic from there, as you said, all year.
The kick was so bad. He admitted as soon as he made contact. I thought maybe there was a lot of wind because Boswell missed the extra point. He hooked it wide right. It wasn't the elements at all. He just kicked it poorly. That kick could have been an extra point and it would have went wide, chances are. Okay? It's just one of those things. Do I feel for Tyler Loop? Yeah, you're supposed to make those kicks. Let's be honest about it.
No.
We're gonna hear, well, everyone missed the play now and then. We shouldn't give the kicker too much blame, too much credit. But you're supposed to make those kicks. With that said, Tyler Loop is absolutely my kicker going forward. I mean, I wouldn't even consider, let's get rid of him because he missed a big kick like that. No, it's one of those things. It happens. He's got to put it behind him. He's got to move forward. I mean, the greatest kickers of all time miss big kicks like that now and then.
It's interesting. Aaron Rodgers said before this game that he said, in my career, I've very rarely played badly 2 weeks in a row. And he played well last night. And as you said, you kind of got vintage Aaron Rodgers at the end of that game, which I didn't really expect him to turn up the dial that way. I thought it might turn out like it turned out last week, but he did play very well.
And something happened that I can't recall ever seeing before. And I know we hear the announcers always saying, I never saw this before. Well, maybe you did. You just don't remember. You talked about it. But I don't remember this quite happening in as dramatic a situation. Rodgers' headset wasn't working. He wasn't getting the plays to this, to that coming in. And Rodgers has been quick to burn timeouts. Whenever he's fed up with something, he might call timeout. And he shouldn't sometimes do that because, you get emotional. That has to be a coach's decision usually. But at that point in the game, it was so big. And Rodgers called the timeout to get his headset straight. But Chris Collinsworth said something very interesting. He said he should have just called the play on his own. Rodgers is savvy and experienced enough. Okay, my headset isn't working. Kind of like Pedro Serrano in the movie Major League, as bad as in Quadrant. I'll do it myself. Do this, with the equipment. But listen, he calls the timeout, and the next play they get a touchdown. So who could argue with that? What a dramatic game. And I'm going to tell you my predictions this year, Keith. Anyone who's been listening to me shouldn't be listening to me as far as my predictions on playoff games because I've had my worst season, Keith, that I can ever remember, just predicting outcomes of games and, standings. Look, I picked the Ravens over the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl this year. Neither of them even in the playoffs.
Can the Ravens run this back? Because Rick's question is very germane, and the first question of both Jackson and Harbaugh. And the question's relevant because it appears to be it's going to be one or the other stays in Baltimore. And you can't find a quarterback. As much as I have some reservations about Lamar Jackson and always have, He's a great player in a regular season. Without a quarterback, can you really say I'm going to choose the coach over the quarterback in this situation?
Why are we saying that? We don't know their relationship, what it is.
Well, the people in Baltimore who seem to know say that's the deal. One or the other is gone. The most respected sports writer in Baltimore wrote exactly that last week. That's what's going to happen. The coaching staff there and some of the hierarchy are fed up with Lamar Jackson and some of his antics, some of his sitting out games with what some would call minor injuries, right? Even last week, they called him out a little bit. And then there's another faction that said Harbaugh needs to go because he's been there too long, and they're not listening anymore.
Well, Harbaugh's been a highly successful coach. Why would you want to move on from a coach who's going to be in demand elsewhere? I mean, why would you want to move on from him? He would be in demand elsewhere. He would be near the top of everyone's list looking for a new coach, any job vacancies. Do you honestly think John Harbaugh wouldn't get another head coaching job in the NFL?
If you wanted one, I would guess so. I thought the same thing about Mike McCarthy, though, twice, and it took him forever to get a second job. It's not an automatic that he'll get another job because he may not want one. There may not be a good fit. There's going to be a lot of jobs opening. We'll talk about that in a second.
When you talk about a job, not only NFL, you're talking about a major college program as well. No, I don't think. His brother, Jim, went
different
to college. You never know what the discussion's going to be. But with Lamar Jackson, we don't know. Okay, how serious his injuries were to prevent it, and also. This element no one wants to talk about it factors into it. Lamar Jackson's due for some type of contract, or he feels he should have one. And maybe he's thinking, if I'm a little injured, I'm not going to risk making it worse. So I'm not going to go all out.
Isn't that a problem?
He's maybe thinking of contract first, team second.
Isn't that
when that happens, if you're a so-called leader of a team, you can't think along those lines at all. And he might be thinking along those lines. But yesterday he showed up. He bought in, he went all out, he laid it all on the line yesterday. That's the Lamar Jackson that you want, going forward. And the question's this: would you give him a 4 or 5 year deal, make him amongst the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL paid wise, and maybe the highest paid even conceivably? Is he going to give you that value going forward? That's all you have to care about, Keith. It's not for past services, past MVP.
I agree.
It's what can this guy give you going forward?
And
I'm not sure.
The reason I would question giving him that contract is exactly what you said before. I mean, again, if you're not going to be out there for some of the biggest games because you're hurt, there's a difference between hurt and injured, right? And he's missed a lot of big games over the years at the end of seasons where the Ravens apparently feel he could have played, and you kind of alluded to that a little bit. And the last time he was up for a contract, they talked about moving on from him then. They had this elaborate plan where they were going to be like a college. They want to run it like a college program, and they would run quarterbacks and matriculate them through the system. And when they came up for their big contract, they'd move on and bring in another quarterback. That was going to be their plan going forward. Maybe they implement it now.
Well, if you're the owner of the Ravens and you're faced with a choice, I mean, who do you stick with? John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson? You have to pay Lamar Jackson the big money if you're going to stick with him. You're going to have to make him maybe the highest paid QB in the league. Who do you stick with if it's either or?
I'm keeping the coach. Yeah, I like John Harbaugh, the coach. I really do. I know he's getting a lot of grief in Baltimore. He gets a lot of grief on these shows, our shows specifically. I think he's a good coach. I don't care for his crying and whining on the sideline on every freaking play, but I think
he's only a second losing season. Only a second losing season. It wasn't even a bad losing season per se. They win it till the end. I would stick with John Harbaugh in that circumstance going forward. I'm a big believer you usually stick with the coach unless the coach, you could tell, is a bit unreasonable. If he's, a bit too uptight, if the coach has issues, and some of these coaches really have issues, well, I would pick the player over them, absolutely. It depends on the circumstance, but you make a great point. You get the feeling Lamar Jackson didn't do his best to play every game, like push the issue to get back in. It's not like he wanted to get back in so badly. That's the way it seemed from the outside. But then again, we don't know for sure the extent of their relationship. Keep that in mind. The relationship might not be the greatest, but it might not be toxic either.
No, it may not be. Again, maybe one has to go, maybe they don't. I'd keep the coach, but again, quarterbacks aren't a dime a dozen. It's hard to find the right guy, and I don't know where you're going to find them this year.
Well, if you're siding with the coach, you could tell the coach, we side with you 100%, we'll move on from Lamar Jackson, or we'll stick with him. What do you want to do? And I think you might find John Harbaugh said, no, I will keep trying to work it out with him. Let's stick with him.
Yeah,
that's what I think is going to unfold.
They got some good players. They still have some good players on that team. It's still, it's not like they've got to burn it all down and start all over.
Well, I just want to say one thing. All the flack that Aaron Rodgers caught on our past shows when he was with the Jets, oh, he's a joke, he's this, he's that. Kudos to Aaron Rodgers. He had a good year. I mean, he didn't have a great year. He had a good year. You could call him a game manager, but he made plays when he had to yesterday. He made some really big plays. It was vintage Aaron Rodgers. I mean, how do you knock a guy? The last two possessions, he leads them to touchdowns in the highest pressure situations. Aaron Rodgers had a good year. Comeback player of the year, Aaron Rodgers.
That's possible. That's very possible. And by the way, I agree. I'm giving him kudos for last night, right? Because as much as he didn't look like the old Aaron Rodgers last week, he looked exactly like the old.
No DK Metcalf yesterday. Imagine he had DK Metcalf, and Chris Collinsworth kept referring to that. Times he looked at DK Metcalf, he couldn't, and DK Metcalf is going to be back for the playoffs. Imagine that. They're getting actually a little bit of a boost, the Steelers. I mean, when we talked about teams that could win the Super Bowl, the Steelers have completely slipped under the radar, and justifiably so. Don't get me wrong. We're not looking at them as a serious Super Bowl winner. But I'm going to tell you, T.J. Watt coming back motivated. DK Metcalf will be there. They might do a little rumbling in the playoffs. They just might. They play the Texans in the first game. I mean, it is a winnable game. I know the Texans on this big streak, but, it's a game that the Steelers absolutely can win.
They can. Yeah, Metcalf being out, I was looking at the guys who are catching balls last night. Gainwell catches 8, Austin a third, Furmoth, Thielen, Valdez-Scantling. These are not Hall of Fame. Thielen was a good player. These are, Hall of Fame wide receivers he's throwing the ball to.
Thielen's pretty good.
Well, he's past
Adam Thielen's pretty good, yeah.
These other guys are all pretty much journeymen, and, he won with a cast of interesting.
Well, that's why Rodgers sometimes the visuals don't look good. He gets mad at receivers because they're supposed to be at a certain spot at a certain time. Yeah. And,
again, yes, there's always going to be injuries in these games, Rick. Also, the Pittsburgh rushing game, Warren didn't have a huge game last night. He was effective. He didn't run the ball a lot, but he's come on strong here in the second half, and that could help the Steelers. They may win a game here in the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, you take it a game at a time. You win one game, then you see what your matchup is next. And
the other big news yesterday was the Panthers back in with Atlanta holding off the Saints. And
I'm watching here in Florida. They had on. And I'm not like you. I don't have 6 games going at once. I don't have that type of setup. I watch traditional cable TV.
Well, I was out last day.
And I turn to the scores, on my phone to see certain updates if they're slow to give them to me on TV. And I'm following the Saints, Falcon game because the implications are, for the Panthers, the Bucks, who's going to get in the playoffs. Tyler Shuck, he leads the Saints to a late touchdown when they're down 2 scores and they miss the onside kick, so they don't get the ball back. Falcons win the game. But the possession before that, they're down like 6 points, okay? And he throws this terrible interception. Tyler Shuck, I feel, showed enough where the Saints can move forward with him next year as the starter.
I do too.
So let's not get carried away, like to say for sure, the Saints have their quarterback of the future. The Saints have their quarterback to move forward with. There's a difference.
Next year.
There's a difference.
Agreed.
Move forward with Tyler Shuck by all means. Let him know the job is his next season, okay? But it comes, with a little asterisk there. You got to show us what you can do over the course of the season next year, because that was a really terrible interception that hardly anyone's going to bring up. And they were down 6 points. Had he led them to a touchdown then, that could have been a game-winning drive. But rather, it was intercepted, and then the Falcons kick a field goal. Now they're up by 9 points. So, and then he leads them to a TD.
Rick wants you to know they do have a discount for the Sunday ticket for
Rick, I can only watch one game at a time, and then I tune during the commercial to the other game and back and forth, whatever's going on.
Now, when the Patriots are playing, I'm concentrating on that game. I will admit to you, yesterday I did have the Bronco game on next to it, and with some kind of, I don't know why I had any expectation that the Broncos could give them a game yesterday. The defense played well, but Trey Lance was just god-awful.
I kind of wonder whether the Patriots might be playing a sleeping dog in the Chargers, because John Harbaugh, consider this, he's taken his foot off the accelerator the last couple of weeks. The Chargers have looked, Jim Harbaugh, and they've looked so. Keep that in mind. Everything he's been doing the last couple of weeks has been strictly the peak for the playoffs, the peak. Everything he's been doing. But the Patriots have a different philosophy, and I'm not saying one philosophy is better than the other. I'm not saying that at all. Mike Vrabel's thing is consistency. We're going to not take our foot off the accelerator at all, and we're going to plow ahead straight forward. But sometimes when you plow ahead straight forward, you kind of hit a wall. You hit a bump there. You kind of get a little tired. There's a little mental fatigue. You don't have a break. That's why the bye is good. Even they had Gronk on yesterday, and you as a Patriot fan would know this. They were laughing at Gronk in the Fox studio because he was funny, but it was really so. Yeah, I had about 14 consecutive years of byes. Every franchise wants just one bye during their career at least, and he'd have a bye routinely with the Patriots, and he said it could work to your advantage. If you know how to practice the right way and you're resting and you're healing up. And Howie Long was actually nodding his head, like listening intently. And they're not having this by the Patriots. They've had an amazing season, but now the pressure's on. Season starts over. And listen, even if the Patriots, I know you don't think this is going to happen for second, Keith. Even though they lose to the Chargers, they've still had a great year as far as I'm concerned. Regardless. But they're expected to win this game against the Chargers. So the pressure's on. They are expected to win.
To me, it's the best matchup they could have got going in, because I don't see this team peaking. They played horribly against the Texans 2 weeks ago, and they didn't play their starters last week. They'll get a little mental break, yes, physical break as well for guys like Herbert to get healthy. But this team's been very up and down. You could get the really good Charger team and have a really tough game. I don't expect this to be easy. I don't think they're winning, like they beat Miami yesterday or they beat the Jets last week.
Yeah, I can't imagine, the Chargers, them just rolling over the Chargers. But, maybe they do. Maybe this is a magical season for them. I don't know. But it looks like for the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have to win 2 games. And chances are, not definitely, they'll have to go through Denver. It'll be tough going into there. Can they win there? Yeah, absolutely. They can win there, but
they have not had great success in Denver over the years, I can tell you right now. But this year, they're 8-0 on the road.
They got Drake May. They got an ascending, quarterback who could, possibly be the big name of the future. Drake May, 2 years from now, when we talk about the short list of top quarterbacks, maybe even 1 year, he might be up there with Josh Allen. You mentioned the names, Mahomes, Allen, May.
He's in the top.
And you want to know something? Maybe right now, I could put May in that company, and I could put him ahead of Lamar Jackson right now.
You put him ahead of Jackson. I put ahead a lot of guys who are established right now.
I mean, yeah, but sometimes we can't just live in the moment, because when quarterbacks hit a patch like Jackson that aren't that good, we tend to forget how great they were and how great they could be again.
Yeah.
So we got to be careful dismissing. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Clearly the top quarterback in the NFL, but with the year the Chiefs had, him getting injured, all of a sudden we put other names next to Mahomes as the best quarterback. So we kind of, like Roy Jones would say in boxing, you all must have forgot. Like he did a rap video. The guy has one so-so fight, we sometimes forget how great he was.
One other big story yesterday, outside of the seed, most of the other games were for seeding and whatnot. But Myles Garrett breaks a record.
I got a problem with that. I did not like the optics were not good to me.
Let me just show this quick and watch it real quick again, because this looks a lot like Strahan's.
Burrow is under pressure. He's sacked. And there it is, a record that has stood nearly a quarter of a century as a new leader.
The problem with that is, Keith, this is the problem. The far sack was a fiasco. It was a 100% tank job, and I lost a certain amount of respect for Michael Strahan. His chest is heaving. Oh, I set the record. Michael, it was an embarrassment, Michael Strahan.
Is this much different though, Jack? I mean, he just laid down.
He just laid down. But you want to know something? The far sack was 100% tanked.
Well, he ran right into it.
I think Brett Favre tanked that sack before the play. I can't say that Joe Burrow did that before the play. I just think Joe Burrow, the game was still close. Keep that in mind.
It was.
That's a factor too. Let's put it another way. Joe Burrow did not try his best to avoid the sack. Let's agree on that.
He 100% did not try to avoid the sack.
I had a problem with the sack with Joe Burrow. It wasn't as clear cut as the far one with Strahan, not as clear cut. But I had a problem with it. And he did it, and it happened late in the game.
Did you happen to hear Strahan in the studio afterwards when he said there should be an asterisk next? He's got the cojones to go on TV and say there should be an asterisk next to Myles Garrett because he did it in 17 games. I did it in 16. You probably ought to just shut up, because now we're going to see that video of him over and over and over again.
No, I mean, Strahan had zero dignity. Zero.
He still
zero dignity on that sack. The moment Favre went down from one of the Giant players was tapping Favre on the back, like, thank you for doing it, Favre guy. It was so obvious. What a joke. The Strahan sack with Favre was a disgrace. And Mark Gastineau was 100% correct. These quarterbacks, they don't, Burrow doesn't think. Who did if he was trying to help Myles Garrett, if he was hurting himself, because you make yourself look bad, like you tanked it for, guys.
Yeah.
And what about your offensive line, who's working hard all game to prevent the guy from getting a sack? It's like you sell them out at the end.
You know what I'd also like to hear Michael Strahan say and never said? I don't think he ever said it. I apologize if I'm wrong. And maybe Myles Garrett even now. That I'd like to recognize guys like when they didn't keep sacks for, I don't know, 50, 60 years in the NFL. Guys like Deacon Jones might have had 35. We don't know. How about you give them some credit? We didn't keep this stat forever. I'm glad to have this record, but I may not be as good as guys like Deacon. I'm just using one name. We don't know what these guys had back in the 60s and 50s. They could have had 40 sacks. How do we know?
You're expecting it from a guy who was given a tank job sack for the record, and he's very proud of it. You expect him to recognize all these other guys and go out of his way to make it a point. I would have loved it for him to say, I think Brett Favre, kind of wanted me to have the sack. Maybe they should put an asterisk next to it. I'm not comfortable with how I got the sack. And then if they kept it in the record book, so be it.
He doesn't do that, but he wants an asterisk next to Myles Garrett's record because he did it.
Was he serious about it?
He was. He says
that shows you the type of guy he is.
He said, do we count the records? Do we as broken when they play 12 or 14 games? Yeah, we do. Jim Brown doesn't hold the all-time single season rushing record. He did it in 11 games. OJ did it in 14. Dickerson did it in 16. And who holds the record now? I don't even know. Dickerson does.
If that's the case, we should just prorate what people have done over X amount of games. Or you played more games than me, so I should hold the all-time record.
Is what the season is.
But the question is, do you think Burrow tanked the sack, the Garrett, and not?
I'm kind of the same mind you are. I don't think he premeditatedly, if that's a word, fell down. I think he saw him there and said, I'm screwed. I'll just fall down and make this easy. I think he knew.
Yeah, maybe you want to know something? Maybe it just happened so quick. Burrow saw, he's coming. I'll go down. He'll get the sack. Who gives it done? It's late in the game. The play kind of was broken up. Like maybe he had nowhere to go to throw the ball, and so be it. But
there was kind of a little, there was really nobody around him, but he wasn't going anywhere if he tried to do something, right? So he was just going to run into his line and maybe get hurt.
He could have thrown the ball away.
He could have done, yes, he could have done a lot of things.
Yeah, but let's put it this way. He didn't try his hardest to avoid the sack. That's the best way of putting it. Agreed.
The big news
today. Congratulations to Myles Garrett. With that said, I'm glad he got it.
It's interesting because we thought he was going to obliterate this record a month ago, and he struggled to get to it. But teams don't want to give up. Most teams don't want to give up those records, and they do what they can to.
Myles Garrett in the past has gone a few games in a row without getting sacks, and then he gets a bunch of sacks. That's how his career's gone in part.
And the Browns, a lot of
the Browns win 2018. We don't know for sure with Kevin Stefanski's future at Cleveland. It seems that he's going to be out, but we're not sure of that. If he's going to get fired, we're going to know that in the coming days. If he survives these next few days, I don't think he's getting fired.
No, you'll know. We all know most of these guys.
We might know today. If they're going to fire him, they would call him in today. You would think.
They call this Black Monday for a reason, and there's already one coach out. Are you surprised? I'm not. I heard a lot of surprise about Raheem Morris because Atlanta finished strong. I don't think his fate was sealed at mid-season. He was not coming back.
Keith, we can't be hypocrites, you and I. We hate to see coaches fired in season because it usually doesn't make sense unless you have your long-term replacement, which you rarely have in season. Why make a move? Let the guy finish the season. I'm all for that. But Raheem Morris, they won their last 4. The players seem to rally around them. But you want to know something? Bottom line is, like your favorite coach, Bill Parcells, would say, you are what your record says you are. And once again, the Falcons disappointed on balance.
That's the key.
And we don't know what their quarterback situation is going to be going forward. Michael Penix has an injury history. It looks like he might miss part of next season. And please don't roll with Kirk Cousins, because you don't have much of a ceiling if you roll with Kirk Cousins. He'll win you some games. He'll win you. Come on, but he'll win you those type of games. And then you step up. He'll be the Falcon quarterback next season, and you'll go 8-9 again and come short. No, let's be honest about it. That's what would happen.
Probably.
I mean, and they're looking maybe to one, the unbalance what Raheem Morris did hasn't been successful. Would I have kept him, considering the amount of players, my star players really want him badly enough, and they won a few games in a row? Maybe if I were the owner, he would have saved his job with me, because 4 in a row is nothing to, look the other way at in the NFL. That's pretty good when you win 4 games in a row.
So 8-9.
But the bottom line is, he hasn't been successful. If you look at the whole picture, those early games count for a lot, and they lost the majority of them.
The team is too talented to be 8-9. That's the bottom line. I mean, to rally them to be 8-9 is not that big a deal to me. He still failed for the majority of the season. With that, there's a lot of talent there. Those star players should have played better when they were playing badly. So they didn't go.
You know what's ironic, Keith? The Bill Belichick situation. Let me tell you why. Reportedly, and maybe this isn't accurate, that Arthur Blank, the Falcon owner, talked to Robert Kraft, who didn't exactly give Bill Belichick a glowing recommendation to be the Falcon coach. The two of them like friends, and nothing wrong with Kraft giving his honest opinion to his friend.
Yeah.
But Belichick did not get the job. Raheem Morris was with the Falcons years ago and popular, so they plucked him off the Ram coaching staff. Didn't work out. If Belichick never went to North Carolina and was an available head coaching candidate still, and everyone knew he wanted back in, Belichick would be a prime candidate for this Falcon job. And I'm not so sure Arthur Blank now says, screw it, Kraft is winning at New England. He's my friend, but he's eating high on the hog now. I might go for Belichick.
I personally think Blank wanted Belichick, but he was talked out of it by the front office because they were threatened. Even though Belichick said he didn't want control, Fontenot, who's now gone today as well, was afraid that Belichick was going to, have a palace coup there and take over control.
Yeah, but now you're dealing with Jordan Hudson, his girlfriend, the drama, the nonsense.
That was still before we knew all that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, would Belichick be a serious candidate? And he hasn't turned North Carolina around.
He's never coached the NFL again.
No. Well, you never know. It takes just one owner. We've heard that. And Atlanta,
one dumb owner.
I'm not ruling out Atlanta completely. Yeah, and then you think towards Brian Flores. I mean, is a team going to take a chance on him after what he did, with his shenanigans, going to court, accusing everyone of being a racist and this and that? I don't know. But Brian Flores normally would be an excellent candidate. And, and a dark horse would be Robert Saleh. I'm going to tell you why. If the Falcons still like their defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulrich, he was Saleh's defensive coordinator with the Jets. And reportedly, they have a great relationship.
They go to a defensive guy again, though. Usually, unless you're the Jets, you kind of, if you've had a defensive guy the last time, which Raheem Morris is, you kind of go the other direction this time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh, I think Robert Saleh gets another shot. I really do. He's one of the guys I would think gets a chance. He might need another year before he's rehabilitated enough. But there's a lot of jobs. We're going to go through these. We'll talk quickly about all of these jobs. There could be as many with already Dabo and Callahan fired during the season. There could be as many as 11 job openings. That'd be a record. I think 8 is a record.
I'm not sure all these guys are getting fired as many as you think. A few are, obviously.
Let's go through real quick. I'm going to leave your guy for last. John Harbaugh. I think he keeps his job, quite frankly.
He keeps his job. The Ravens are dumb if they fire him. Highly successful coach like him, he stays. He has to stay. Come on.
Mike McDaniel, I think he gets fired despite the rally in the second half for the Dolphins. I think they need to start.
They look so bad. I mean, last couple of yesterday,
I think that was
it's 50-50. They're 50-50 whether he stays.
I'm going to leave this guy for later. Zach Taylor. I think Taylor.
For some reason, I think he stays.
I think
he went to a Super Bowl years ago, and they were massive failure this year, but somehow I get the feeling he survives.
I just got a feeling they're going to start over in Cincinnati, somehow start over. Joe Burrow thing is just going to linger over their offseason as well.
Well, they're cheap in the sense I don't think they'll go for like a high-profile coach and pay the money.
Well, they didn't with Zach Taylor, right? That he's a perfect example of that. Jonathan Gannon, I think, is a dead man walking. He's going to go for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I can't see the justification in keeping him. The Cardinals were one of the big disappointments in the league. I mean, they were just flat out bad. No quarterback moving forward with Marvin Harrison. The receiver never developed under him.
It doesn't feel like there's any path forward for this team right now. So, yeah, he's got to go. An interesting case is going to be Pete Carroll. I think he's going to get fired.
I think he stays. I think part of it at the end of the season, he cooperated in the unofficial tanking. I mean, like sitting out Max Crosby and other moves to get the number one choice. I don't think Carroll's going anywhere, even though a lot of people think he's going to get fired. I'm going to say point blank, he stays.
When you say he went along with that, do you think Pete Carroll said, well, if you guarantee my job, I'll go
on? No, not at all. No, not at all. Not at all. Sometimes an owner could make it think, oh, man, if we somehow get the number one pick, we could have our quarterback of the future. And I think the players don't tank.
No, they want
to setting up strategy, but you sit guys out like Max Crosby. I mean, where have you ever heard a situation Max Crosby wants to play in the worst way and you're not letting him play?
That's a bad
look. He's medically cleared to play, but still you're finding a reason to sit him out.
This is a reason I think we need anti-tanking rules. And like I said, it
doesn't matter in the NFL because you want to know something, Keith. You know the way it works out. The so-called third pick could turn out better than the first pick. Look at a couple of years ago. Were they going to tank for Caleb Williams? So you get Jaden Daniels and Drake May, who are ahead of him at the moment.
He's catching up.
Even though Jaden Daniels has been hurt, so I shouldn't say at the moment, but I would rate Jaden Daniels a little ahead of Caleb Williams, if you're asking me. And Drake May now miraculously has gone a little ahead of Jaden Daniels.
He's definitely ahead. He's definitely the number one guy of that class right now, but Williams isn't that far behind.
Did you hear what John Elway, I just very quickly said the other day, his biggest regret as a GM was not drafting Josh Allen. He loved Josh Allen coming out of college, but he couldn't convince his coaching staff to be on board. And it's interesting because you have all your coaches and all of them, and you want a consensus or an understanding because Jerry Jones wanted to draft Johnny Manziel in the worst way.
Jeez.
And he went across the room, and everyone wanted to guard Zach Martin. And he was furious, Jerry Jones, but he went along with his son and everyone else, but he was mad about it. Well, Zach Martin's gone to the Hall of Fame. Johnny Manziel's out of the league, so his people were right. You don't want to completely overrule them. But had he overruled them, man, oh, man.
They'd be even worse than they are now. They'd be in worse situation. There's a couple more guys here. Kevin Stefanski, again, I think he goes. I think you may think differently. I think he goes. They talked about a trade. They they were looking at possible trade options for Stefanski to get something out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Stefanski will go. I'm not sure again because keep this in mind. He kept playing Shedeur Sanders at the end, and you got the feeling he really didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So when you show an owner a level of cooperation, sometimes the owner thinks, okay, he kind of went along with me, so I'm going to keep him on board.
I think he's going to have to be on board with Shedeur Sanders or he doesn't keep his job, and the next guy is going to have to be the same thing. So,
well, maybe he should be on board with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur didn't do badly. He wasn't lights out. But what other option do you have at quarterback? You're going to draft the guy?
No, you
start
can't.
over again. You still got Dylan Gabriel. You got Deshaun Watson, who might be on the roster. Between the three of them, you make do with your Cleveland.
So a couple of interesting guys here at the end. Your Super Bowl pick, and because we want to talk about one of the most disappointing teams. There's been a couple, and we'll touch on that maybe in a second. Todd Bowles. So just an awful collapse. I mean, kudos to them for coming back and actually winning that game Saturday, because I didn't think they'd win another game after they lost to Carolina the first time. But Todd Bowles has got to be feeling a little heat in Tampa. I got to believe, don't you think?
I don't know whether I would move on from Todd Bowles. I like Todd Bowles a lot. Major disappointment. Baker Mayfield went from an MVP candidate after about 4 or 5 weeks to one of the worst starting quarterbacks. Not that he was terrible. I shouldn't say one of the worst, but I'm not sure whether you move forward with Baker Mayfield as your future quarterback for the next 4 or 5 years anymore. I thought you could early in the season, but Baker Mayfield was just another guy as the season was progressing. Just another guy. He'd sometimes make good plays with his legs, hit the open man, but he was mediocre.
This feels like a case you fire your offensive coordinator or you get fired.
You know what it is? They have talent on the Buccaneers.
They do.
If you move on from Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield, that means you're rebuilding. I still think they can win with the guys that they have. They just got to play better.
So if the owner comes to Todd Bowles and says, Todd, you can keep your job, but you're changing your whole offensive staff, what happens? I don't respect guys who throw their coaches under the bus.
No, I don't know.
I'm not saying that'll happen. I think there's a somebody's got to pay for this. Someone's got to pay.
Someone's got to pay. When you can't beat the Miami Dolphins, the next to last game, had they won that game, they would have won the division.
Now, Todd can fire him. I'm not saying that guy can't get fired. Todd can make coaching changes. Bowles can make coaching changes. But if he's mandated,
I don't think you should be doing that type of thing, telling a coach, okay, you got to get rid of this guy, that guy. I just tell the coach, look, you could keep the assistants you want, but you're all held accountable as a group. I also look at things this way, Keith. I like to show a degree of sympathy towards head coaches, their situation. But if you're a head coach and you fire assistants, why should I be compassionate towards you if you're firing your assistants? You're going to get to Aaron Glenn later. Aaron Glenn fires his defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks.
That's his
decision. So why should his specific defensive coordinator? So I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. You're not giving him time to turn the defense around. Why am I giving you this extra time as a head coach? Oh, it's only 1 year. You didn't even give Steve Wilks a full year. And look how terrible the defense was after you moved on from him. They basically gave up.
I want to go to Aaron Glenn now. I think Todd Bowles stays and he makes some changes in that staff as well.
I kind of feel that'll be the case, but I'm going to tell you this with Todd Bowles. He's 1 year away from getting fired.
Yeah.
If they don't make the playoffs next season, I'll run it back with Baker Mayfield also.
Yeah.
Okay? They don't get it done next season. They don't make the playoffs. I'm kind of moving on from both of them.
The last guy is Aaron Glenn, and let me set this up a little bit. So we've talked a lot about this, and we both felt, without a Mike Vrabel hire out there, that Aaron Glenn would get another year. the last 2 weeks, I'm not sure now. When that team is laid down the way they did last week against the Patriots and yesterday against the Bills, playing against second-team players, I mean, Trubisky goes off on the defense. Jets don't intercept a pass the entire season, set a record. That's unbelievable. I'm starting to think Aaron Glenn may not get that second year.
I'm gonna wonder who's out there. I don't see what Aaron Glenn did that was positive. Early in the year, at least they played hard. They lost close games. They were competitive. The tackling has been atrocious. Aaron Glenn was a defensive coordinator with the Lions. Why didn't he step in late in the year after you fired Steve Wilks, get the defense straight? Now, he kept saying this isn't acceptable. This is going to change. This is going to change. It never changed late in the year. It was atrocious. These teams were playing with the Jets. The Jets won competition. The Jets were sparring partners. That's all they were for these other teams. The Buffalo Bills toyed with them. And New England toyed with them. They played with the Jets, played with them.
And I'm sorry, it's a reflection on the coach when your team rolls over the way they rolled over the last couple of weeks and a lot of the second half of the season. You saw other teams go out like the Saints. The Saints are a great example. James had mentioned, I didn't put the comment up, but he mentioned Tyler Shuck played really well. The whole team played well. Then they had a bunch of part-time Uber drivers, guys trying to win games or at least win jobs. Don't you have pride to say, show some pride?
Yeah, but there's an element of thought. Was it just was Aaron Glenn maybe trying that hard to win, to get in the draft position, to get their franchise quarterback? Because, they can draft Dante Moore now.
They can.
If they wanted to. I'm not sure what direction they would go. Oh, by the way, the Steelers-Raven game, I didn't realize it at the time till this morning. If the Ravens won, the Jets would have moved up one spot from 16 to 15. But because the Steelers won, they're picking their second first-round pick will be 16 instead of 15. Probably not significant. Probably not. But you never know.
Probably not.
Aaron Glenn did an awful job. And I know Brian, our producer, keeps saying, it's only 1 year. Give, AG a chance. AG was awful. AG gets an F on his grade on his paper. You hand in papers with the job coaches, he gets an F. He was terrible. And we keep talking about Jimmy Johnson, Bill Parcells, and Dan Campbell. I know in the case of Jimmy Johnson with the Cowboys when they won 1-15, we knew they had a terrible team.
Right.
Jerry Jones, knew that
that's different.
They had to rebuild from the bottom. We knew that. They were awful. They didn't know what he was doing. Was coming out of college. Okay, I bet Bill Parcells when he was 3-13 or whatever his first year, that the games weren't that bad late in the season. The games they were losing, at least they were playing. I bet they were playing hard, competitive, but just losing games. This was more than losing games. The Jets were an embarrassment. And don't tell me Brandon Cook gives you the best chance of winning.
No.
That's the excuse for using him. Best chance of winning?
The only chance, he'll probably keep his job because they were tanking, obviously. What's his name? Freddie Cook. Him playing the last 3 or 4 games, that tells me they don't want to win. As you said, he's not their best chance to win. But the defense was bad. Everything was bad. And the players have to accept some responsibility for a lack of pride. You've got to go out there and play. As bad as Gerard Mayo, and Gerard Mayo was not prepared for his job last year. They had Mike Vrabel. They knew what they wanted to do. There was a lot of different circumstances. But that team never stopped playing hard last year. I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
Not Jet team. So
they just didn't play. They didn't play hard. That's the thing about it. They didn't play hard. Okay, it's the second half of the season. I mean, they got to a point where I don't want to say they gave up, but they certainly weren't trying.
Brian does think they're looking for a veteran quarterback, but there's no real veteran quarterbacks available, is there?
Well, no, the guys.
Or Hendon Hooker.
Paul, you're going to have to decide. And the Jets are going, whether you want to go from a Malik Willis, is Mac Jones on the contract? But I wouldn't give a number 1 draft pick for Mac Jones. Get out of here.
Nobody's
giving.
The
Jets' first 4 picks, they go 2nd, 16th, I think 33rd and 44th, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I would give up if I had to the 44th pick to get Mac Jones, something like that.
I think that's still high. I don't think I get more than third.
That's still high, but it's within reason, at least. If you're going to make Mac Jones your franchise quarterback, you say, I think I could roll with this guy going forward.
I'm not sure Mac Jones is going to thrive in that situation.
Right. Well, I might not. Malik Willis is a free agent. I get the feeling Malik Willis might be able to be successful. Look, let me ask you. You remember Malik Willis from Liberty College, even though I imagine you didn't see him play that much because it was Liberty. Dante Moore, Malik Willis going forward. I don't think you could say with absolute confidence that Dante Moore would be a better fit long term.
I would not disagree with that. I would say, and that's not necessarily a raving endorsement of Malik Willis, because I'm not that high on any of these quarterbacks coming out of college. So if you're going to use a first round draft pick on one of these 2 guys, then the Raiders are going to take Mendoza probably.
Yeah.
I think I might roll the dice with Malik Willis instead of using that draft pick on the quarterback, because it's such a crapshoot whether he's going to be any good.
And then what you do, if you're the Jets, you get Willis, you get Ruben Bain, from Miami. And who's that kid who might be available with the next pick from Texas Tech? What was his name? The defensive end, who stood out with Texas Tech.
If you can get bookend defensive ends in this draft, you really...
Exactly. You might be able to get that. And all of a sudden, you're changing the equation. I mean...
Ruben Bain's the guy I'd be targeting with that 3rd pick for sure. I'll tell you right now.
Well, they just go second overall. Or you could listen, Arizona might want Dante Banks. You flip-flop. I think they go 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. Flip-flop. The Jets flip-flop 2 and 3. And if Arizona gives you a number 1 pick, you play a bluff with Arizona where they think you're going to get a quarterback and they flip-flop and give you an additional number 1, and then you get Baines or whatever and sign Malik Willis. We'll see how it works out.
It's going to be interesting to see. This has been a weird season. I mean, what's the most disappointing? I mean, for you, I know with your Super Bowl pick, I'm sure you're going to say Tampa Bay is one of the biggest disappointments as we've gone through this year. Maybe not, I guess, from the beginning on, but the Colts, to me, are the biggest disappointment of all. I mean, they were rolling and looked like the best team in the NFL at one point, or one of them, and they just totally fell apart. Nice.
Yeah. You know what the biggest disappointment was to me, believe it or not? I wouldn't say the Buccaneers, they were major disappointment. As with the Ravens, too, not getting the playoffs. The Arizona Cardinals. Mm-hmm. They were bad from wire to wire, basically. They never woke up out of their slumber. They never had any good moments at any point. And they were supposed to be contenders going into the season. Well, finally, we were going to get a breakthrough with the Cardinals. This was supposed to me, the year they were going to break through. And I thought actually win their division. Kyler Murray was finally going to arrive on have put together a heck of a good year. It was a disaster. They're going to lose their coach, probably lose their quarterback. I don't know where they go from here.
The problem is they're at ground zero. There's no positive going forward to say you can grab onto this and say, okay, we got hope. I see nothing there. Yeah. They're not going to win for a while in my mind. So that's a good one. Listen, I think Brian would agree. I think the Lions are a major disappointment as well, even though they had a much better record than some of these teams we were talking about. But,
the Jets need a playmaker. I might take my 16th pick in the first round and say to the Cardinals, you give me Marvin Harrison and a second-round draft pick, and I'm going to give you number 16 overall. And I think the Cardinals might be happy to do it. And I think he revives his career opposite Garrett Wilson. Now you got two playmakers.
I still like Marvin Harrison. I think he will rebound at some point. It may never be in Arizona, but somewhere else.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be something to consider.
Hey, listen, with James Cook throwing him the ball, no better way to revive your career.
Or maybe it'll be Hendon Hooker, as Brian said. So
Hendon Hooker, oh, right.
Anyway, there'll be lots to talk about Friday. Friday, I want to rank the quarterbacks, Jack, just so you know we're going to rank.
College, very quickly.
Oh, yeah, college quick. I just want to make that note. Make sure we rank our quarterbacks for the playoffs. I want to do that Friday. College football, we got the semifinals Thursday and Friday. We'll make our Friday pick then. But Thursday night, we got Miami Hurricanes. Let's go against the Ole Miss Rebels. The Rebels, it looks like everybody's left as far as the offensive assistant coaches, except for the most important guy, Charlie Weiss Jr. Whether that changes during the week, I don't know. I don't know how much it'll affect this team. They're a great story. I'm telling you, the Hurricanes are peaking at the right time. They're as talented as anybody in this playoff. If they bring that talent to the field the way they did the last 2 weeks, the Hurricanes will win this game. I think it's going to be an exciting game back and forth, though. I think I'm excited about this game. It's going to be fun. Hurricanes.
Yeah, I like Miami as well, but you'll be mad at me. I'd like to see Ole Miss keep it going. The soap opera effect, the excitement.
Great story.
I'd love to see them coming. Yeah, it would be amazing. I mean, Ole Miss, especially if they, 2 more wins, national champions, it would be a story that would be talked about years and years from now. When you talk about coaches leaving and everything, them overcoming everything, well, what a tale that could turn out to be. But I like Miami with that.
It's a great story.
And I want to see Carson Beck show me something where he moves up on the draft board.
Right now, they're just wanting Carson Beck not to beat them. They're manage games, and that's all they want out of them. So yeah. We'll see. He might have to open it up a little bit more against this Ole Miss team because I expect them to put some points up.
Yeah.
A quick side note. I'm out with guys, and I see it on message boards. Everybody's like, oh, I bet you Lane Kiffin feels horrible now that he left and his team's doing so well. Well, Lane Kiffin's making about $500,000 every time this team wins. He's still getting paid his incentive for the playoffs by LSU. So every time Ole Miss wins, Lane Kiffin's getting paid. So I don't think he's really feeling all that bad about what's going on.
I think it do. No. If they win the national championship, Ole Miss, believe me, it's going to stick with Lane Kiffin because they're going to be people who are saying, rightly or wrongly, okay, oh, we didn't need Lane Kiffin. We did it without him. I've been there myself on a high school level, seeing something like that, coaching. And it's agony. It's agony for Lane Kiffin as long as the story's gone. Lane Kiffin will be relieved when Ole Miss gets eliminated. If they get eliminated against Miami, he'll be relieved.
If they win it all, he's going to put about $2.5 million extra in his pocket. You think he doesn't want them to win? Yes, he does. Money talks. We talk about all
money. Yeah, I understand that element, but he'll try to take credit for them winning.
Well,
they won with my team. I'm the reason why.
I'll tell you, I've been a Lane Kiffin backer for a long time. I've had a hard time staying on his team.
Lane Kiffin goes back a long way with Al Davis. People forget Lane Kiffin coached the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah.
And Al Davis refused to pay him. He said Lane Kiffin is a bad person, miserable person. Those are two powerful minds meeting, Al Davis and Lane Kiffin. Man, oh man, we didn't know Lane Kiffin was a new coach basically at the time. But him and Al Davis, a meeting of the personalities, man, oh man, that would have been entertaining to view.
Lane was a kid then. He's only 32 years old at that point.
Yeah, man.
It was crazy. But so you're going to take Ole Miss. I'll take Miami.
I think Miami will win. I want Ole Miss to win.
Oh, you want Ole Miss
for them? Yeah. That's the difference involved. But I know you're a big Miami fan, so I hate to say I want your team to lose. But Ole Miss is such a compelling story. You love talking about, get them in the championship game. Oh, man, that's national news day after day.
Your buddy Keith also has a nice future bet on Miami winning the national championship. So just keep in mind.
Well, you got to bet Frank with hers, though. He loves betting. He bets Ohio State because he wants to lose. Frank wants to lose his money.
Frank is
just so the Eagles and Ohio State could lose. He bets on them.
Frank did. So I told you twice, just to touch on this quickly. Frank, after our show last Monday, he sent me a private message saying, "What are you, crazy?" when I picked Miami to beat Ohio State. But he sent me a nice message after they won too. Said, "You called it. Good job." And whatever.
So. Well, at least he's gracious with you. He's not gracious to give me, credit normally. But it's good that he gives it to other people.
Frank, I'd like a shout out tonight on Glove Fist, please. That's all I ask. A little shout out.
Oh, okay. Frank likes to talk football before the show when we come on. Yeah.
And to check out Jack and Frank tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on.
We have a guest boxing historian, Lee Groves, is going to join us for the best in boxing. Come on to Glove Fist, 7 p.m. Eastern time.
Excellent. Well, we'll be back Friday, guys, with all the our picks. We'll do our picks for the playoffs. We'll do we're going to rate the quarterbacks as well, and we'll talk about the NFL playoffs a little bit more in depth and who we like and who we don't like. Some interesting matchups to talk about. We'll have some fun then. Jack, great job today. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you Friday morning at 8 a.m. Jack, we'll see you tonight at 7, and I'll see you Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern with the College Football Huddle. Keith Engle for Jack Hirsch and Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Have a great week, guys. Bye-bye.